Hello everybody, how's everybody doing? I'm feeling a lot better. Thanks for everybody who did comment on my last video that I did mention that I was hurting, and I did my video on my AppMax winning unboxing video. Doing a lot better like I said earlier in this video, and at least I don't get, well, at least very little numbness in my left arm now. So the herniated disc is starting to dissolve. It was a lot of pain for the first month. Went through hell, and hopefully I'll be going back to work in the first week or second week of January, and I can get my life back and rolling and getting some decent money again. But anyway, thanks once again for everybody who did wish me the best of luck and get my health back. So looks like I'm on the right path without surgery. Knock on wood, just make sure it stays that way. But anyway, Christmas tree behind me. So Merry Christmas to all those who celebrate Christmas, and Happy Hanukkah for those who celebrate Hanukkah, and Happy New Year to everybody else as well. And this video I was motivated by somebody who made a comment in my video saying, probably a Chris Dwayne worshiper, follower, brainwasher, whatever you want to call them, because I call them all, but anyway, stated that silver is going to save you in its upcoming collapse. That was very interesting, as I'm always hearing it always going to work. But he was a very aggressive statement that he mentioned, and so I won't get into any involved in any great detail about these bitter silver worshippers who really don't know anything about silver. And so I did a hit more history on that. And I always go to my stats, or most of my stats I usually go to Kitco. And they have a great historical price range where you can go into Kitco yourself, and then in the top part you will see a whole bunch of different options to choose from. That in a yellow, if you click on the data area and then look all the way over to the left area, you will see historical gold, silver, platinum, and palladium prices. You can click on the gold or silver and it will tell you pretty much every month what was the price of that whole year. Okay, so it's very educational. So I wanted to do a little history on that. So this video is about gold and silver as a preservation of wealth, and is it a savior during a collapse? So this is what I came up with. Unfortunately, I can't remember all the stats in my head. I just wrote it down, so I'm going to have a little notebook here. I'll start off with the silver, since everybody loves silver. So I'll start off with that. So obviously in the 1700s it was very stable. So started from 1792 to 1861. It pretty much stayed at $1.29 for 70 years. Guess you can call that preservation of wealth. Didn't go up, didn't go down, it just stayed as it was. And that was obviously those were days when he used it as real coins, as money. Then in 1864, it hit a new high of $2.93. That was huge. Now, if you would have got it in 1864, thinking that it's going to go through the moon, if there was like any Chris Dwayne people out there, Mike Maloney's telling people, get yourself into silver, it's going to be a savior, it's going to be the next new thing. Look how much it went up from $1.29. It went up $1.70. Hurry up, quick, before it keeps going up. Well, if you would have bought it in 1864 by listening to those people when it went to $2.93, you had to wait 109 years to get your money back. Sorry, you're dead. So is probably your kids are dead. Okay, maybe your great grandkids finally got something where it took 1973 for it to hit $3 from the $2.93. 109 years it took. Okay, doesn't sound like a preservation of wealth to me. Okay, so now go for a few more years. What's really kind of makes me worry about silver being a preservation of wealth. Back in the old days, 1890, it was $1. And it took 28 years until 1919 to hit $1.33 again. So it's 28 years that if you bought it at $1, it stayed there. or went down. Actually, silver went down for those years. Really didn't stay stable like gold, which I love. I'll get into gold in the next topic. And then from 1919, if you would have bought it at $1.33, once again, Chris Dwayne, Mike Dwayne, all right, that's up and to going to the moon again. Get your silver today. Well, it took 48 years again to hit that $1.33, where it went up to $2 in 1967. So you had to wait 48 years again just to see any type of your return. 48 years. Most likely you were dead and your kids got that, not you. That's a shame. Just to see here. Okay, so what I really wanted to get more involved in is also an our time frame as well. Our time frame in 1981, silver was $8. Okay, it took 23 years to get back to that $8, and it was in 2004 when it hit $8 again. Long period of time, 23 years. A very long period of time. So I don't see the preservation of wealth from our past history to tell us that silver is a preservation of wealth at all. You tell me in those histories, and go to Kitco, you tell me where the preservation of wealth is from 1792 till today. It's really not there. And today's world of silver going into the 20s from what was it, $8, is pretty much from inflation, not from value. Because everything else is going up with the value of silver. Actually, silver's going down where all the other prices are still going up. So it's a loss of preservation if you really think about it, not gaining. Okay, so our time frame is pretty much has failed. And of course, it hit $50 twice in the 1980, but in 1981 it averaged $8. So if you got it at $50 in 1980s, you're hanging yourself. Okay, if you bought it at 2011 when it hit $50 again, you're hanging yourself now. You lost more than you lost like 70% of your value. There's no preservation of wealth in that. Okay, so preservation of wealth in silver, I highly doubt it. History told me it's not there. If you think it is, hey, then that's in your belief of Chris Dwayne. But I'm going by history books, and preservation of wealth in silver isn't there. In my eyes, from stats. Silver in a collapse. So, let's see how this guy is in collapse. Well, in our first Great Depression we had, and in late 20s, and started in 1929. So I put down here 1928, it was 58 cents. The start of collapse in 1929, it went down 48 cents, lost 10 cents. I mean, I think that much to you, but 10 cents is a lot of money back then. In 1930, it dropped all the way down to 33 cents, a huge drop. And in 1931, it dropped down to 30. In 1932, it dropped down to 25 cents. So let me stop right there. So the beginning of this major depression where people were jumping out the windows, jumping out the roof, off the roofs, and committing major suicide, which is in our history books, by the way. It's a fact. Silver crash, lost more than 50% of its value during the beginning of the crash. Okay? Doesn't sound like too much of a savior during the collapse, does it? Now, here comes the interesting part. In 1933, in the prime of the Great Depression, silver rises to 43 cents from 25 cents. It's a nice little big jump. 34, 54 cents. So it doubled its value in the prime of the Depression from the time that it lost from 1962. And in 1935, it went back to 58 cents. So at the end of the Great Depression, it got back all the value that it lost from the beginning, right before it got started. So in the beginning of the Great Depression, you lost a tremendous amount of that wealth. And at the end of it, if you survived through it and hung through it and stayed strong, you got your value back down, or value back from the 1928 value. But in 1936, the year after that, it went back down to 45 cents, and it stayed down in the 40s, 30s for at least another 10 plus years. Okay, so during the depressions and collapses, obviously silver crashes in the beginning. Is it like the same thing like it is today? Are we now in the midst of another Great Depression, as we all know we believe that we are, with silver and gold crashing right now in the beginning part? And then it's going to obviously rise up. But is it going to go back to where it was before it crashed? Back into the 30s and 40s and not like the hundreds like people are predicting? History says it doesn't get any higher. It loses, and then at the end, it gets back what it lost. What silver did in the late 20s. Okay? That's not good enough for you? How about the 2008 collapse, the last one? Our time frame collapse. What did silver do to that? Well, let's see. Highest price in 2008, silver was $20.92. Collapsed down to $8.88 in a collapse when everything collapsed. $12 lost value. Almost like 60% of your value on that. So the collapse in 2008 did not save you in silver. You got hammered dramatically. So silver did nothing for preservation of wealth to me from the stats. And the collapse, it failed completely too. Completely. So silver does not save you in a collapse. Time to go to my favorite gold, my metal gold. It is a true preservation of wealth, which is the reason why all the banks, big countries store it to back up their paper dollars, their fake money that they have now, because they know that's the only thing that has real true value. Wars were fought over gold. Hitler, when Germany was in its midst crisis of a Great Depression and they were done, they were invading countries, and he had Pacific Nazi servicemen going into other countries as they were invading the countries, going into their central bank and stealing their gold. Okay? Poland was smart, caught up to that, and got all their gold out of there before even Nazis got in there. So when they opened up their central vaults, guess what? All their gold was gone. Hitler didn't like that very much. But Poland was smart. They knew Hitler was coming for their gold, and he got rid of it before they came. It's actually in a video in here somewhere. I don't know where it is, so I can't even put the link below. I just saw it like 3-4 months ago. A video on that, which was very interesting. So wars were fought over gold. India has a church pretty much made out of gold, so they worship gold not just as a value, but they worship it as something else, as a higher value. Okay? Now, KCO went down from 1833, was the lowest year that they started with the gold. So from 1833 to 1919, it pretty much stayed at $18.93. 85 years is a stable metal. And in 1919, it went up to $19.95. 1920 to 1930s, it stayed in the low 20s. And in 1931, it went down to $17. But 1932, it went right back to $20. And the next year after that, 33, $26. And 34, it went to $34. So it either stayed or increased its value in time, as silver did not. And after 1934, it stayed in the mid-30s until 1949, where it dropped back down to $31, but that was only for 1 year. 1949. And it stayed about the $31 range until 1968, where it went to the high 30s. So for about 19 years, it stayed in the low 30s when it dropped down a little bit. Didn't keep going down. It just stayed there. Lost $2 or $3 and stayed there. Unfortunately, almost took 20 years to hit high 30s. And then, of course, after we went off the gold standard, gold prices just went through the roof. So from this stats, from gold throughout the history, was so much more stable. It only went down a few dollars, even though that's a lot of money back then as well. But only did it for 1 year, and gold rebounded completely, as silver stayed down there for many, many, many years. So there's a big difference in gold for only 1 year and silver for 20, 30 years at a time before it rebounded. Gold only had at one time, a 19-year gap where it took to get back from that 31 back to 34s. Gold in our time. Okay, 1981, it was $460. Okay, it took 25 years to get back to $460 when it reached $606 in 2006. So in our time, gold also had a 25-year stretch where it took you to get at least your money back. Gold almost hit that 3 times in that time frame, but it still didn't. It went to 444, still not there, still didn't get it. So that was a shame. 25 years. So gold also at times is not a preservation of wealth either in our time. The Great Depression. Now we've got to go for gold and see what gold did here in the late 1920s. In 1929, it was $20.63. It was pretty much the same price before the Depression started. So it didn't do anything in the first year. Pretty much it stayed stagnant. 1930, it was $20.65. So it actually went up 2 cents as silver went down in the beginning of the Great Depression. As I said in the beginning, the silver went down dramatically for the first couple of years. So gold actually went up 2 cents. But in 1931, it went down to $17.06. Huge drop. But in 1932, it went right back up to $20.69. So it got higher still in the Great Depression 1 year than before it started, as silver was still crashing. Okay, so gold went up as silver went down. Gold only had 1 bad year, 3 years, and the next year it rebounded even more. So you got more for your wealth during a Great Depression in the Great Depression. More of your value in the Great Depression. 1933, in the prime of the Great Depression, just like when silver started rising up again, gold did the same thing. It went from $20.69 in 1932 to $26.33 in 1933, and the 34 went to $34.69, and the 35 at the end of it, pretty much went to $34.84, which stayed in there, and it stayed into the mid-30s until 1968, another 35-year gap where it stayed in the mid-30s. So gold also has another gap of 35 years where the preservation of wealth is a little 35 years is a long time to wait to see any type of value increase. So, is there really a preservation of wealth in precious metals? There seems to be a lot more stable of that in gold, but still gold has their nice little gaps. Had 2 gaps of a 25-year and a 35 years. And of course back in the when you use it as real coins, it stayed there for 85 years, but we really can't throw that into the mix because we all know that was a stable time before any BS came in with paper money. So, in the Great Depression, we learned that silver was a total disaster in the beginning, and then at the end it picked it up and got back what it lost before it started. As gold got more back in the Great Depression, only had 1 year bad, and then rebounded more than what it had ever had before, and then some, and it kept increasing. So gold withstanded the Great Depression dramatically. So if you had your wealth in gold, you were not the one jumping out your window, most likely. You were the one, and people were jumping out the window were the ones who had the silver. Okay? Our time frame of a collapse in 2008. What did gold do in that one? Well, its highest price in 2008 was $1,011, and it dropped all the way down to $712. So that was a $300 loss. So you lost about 20% of your value, as silver was around 60. So gold definitely took a hit in the 2008 collapse in our time frame, but rebounded pretty nicely the year after as well, just like silver did. But it didn't lose as much of its value as silver did, which is the reason why banks and big countries obviously store the gold, because the preservation of wealth may not always be there, but it's the most consistent wealth savior out of all the precious metals that we know to man. And after all, people worship gold and look at gold as a much more valued metal anyway. So anybody wishes to comment on any of these stats, any views, any other things you want to add, please feel free. This is why I have this channel, for everybody to listen to everybody, communicate, and learn from each other. So I always like to start new stats, new topics, and let the more wiser people who've been in there for a lot longer than me to come up with more stuff that I did not mention, because I do a little research and then I just do my videos and let everybody else fill me in on more detailed stats, different websites. I'm not really good with computers, so I don't know really too much about computers and stats and different companies that have all this stuff. You guys are awesome with that. So feel free to leave your comments. And everybody, once again, have a great holiday coming up. I got an unboxing to do as well, so hopefully everybody enjoys that. So thank you very much. Have a good day.